Hey, what's up guys, Rep here. So you may have noticed that on Twitter over the past couple of days, the term lolly has been trending non-stop. Now that's largely attributable to Vaush, who is a leftist streamer who has had a lot to say about this topic in the past, but has now been exposed as a hypocrite on the subject because people discovered some of his interest in fictional content, including lolicon. Now Vaush for many years has weaponized his fan base to smear and attack lolicons and anime fans generally by calling them pedophiles and Nazis for the fictional content that they consume.
It's that anime has a ton of lolly shit, and a ton of Nazis are hyper insecure in their masculinity, and they want like a trad wife or whatever, untainted by feminism, that they can control and manipulate because they have no other experiences. And anime is perfect for people with that kind of psychosis.
But over the past couple of days, everyone has been pointing out that Vaush is a huge hypocrite on this subject, and as this tweet says, life comes at you fast, because recently Vaush was streaming, and in an attempt to save something to his computer, he accidentally revealed a folder of his on stream containing not only a folder with his taxes, but also a lot of fictional porn.
You can see this is an example of the kind of structure that I'm referring to.
So obviously this is YouTube and I have to censor basically everything on the screen, but if you want an uncensored screenshot to see what kind of things are in this folder, you can find examples all over YouTube. But I want to start by addressing a deflection that Vaush and his supporters are attempting in their form of damage control in this situation, where he's basically trying to minimize everything to one image. It was just one image he accidentally saved without knowing it was lolicon, which is an absolute farce. On the screen, we can see about 20 images in this folder, right? And I would say about 5 of them, at least 5 of them, would make him a predator under his own standards. And knowing a guy like this, who has literal folders dedicated to sorting his porn, I would imagine there's thousands of images saved to his computer. So if you think this is the only examples of lolicon he has saved on his computer, you are delusional. There's clearly much more than what we're seeing in this one screenshot. This is lolicon featuring Hololive's Matsuri, and this is another image featuring her, and this one's a lot more clear, okay? And again, heavily censored for YouTube, but clearly the characters in this image, there's 2 female characters that are clearly lollies. This is lolicon, and Matsuri herself considers her VTuber model to be 16 years old. Matsuri herself is a lolicon. The artist who made this is a lolicon. And in the tags, you can see lolly. This is a clear-cut example of lolicon. That makes him a blatant hypocrite under his own standards. But don't worry. Vaush has a defense, an explanation for all of this. He claims that he confused Hololive's Matsuri for a goblin.
The other one is like a threesome with 2 chicks and a guy. And in retrospect, looking at it, knowing now that that artist is a lolicon, yeah, I can see it. When I looked at it, I think the vibe that I got was like short stack, thick kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like the way like goblins get drawn in porn. You'll have to entertain me for a moment on this presumed shared knowledge of how goblins get drawn in pornography. But you know how they're all like thick short stacks, right?
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, Vaush and his supporters will try to convince you that he looked at this image and thought she was a goblin. Yeah, obviously nobody is buying that, as users like this have pointed out. You think this is a goblin? Why doesn't it have green skin? Why doesn't it have pointy ears and other features that are closely associated with goblin characters? Like, nobody's buying this excuse. And it's really just pathetic, like the lengths this guy's going to avoid being called a hypocrite under his own standards, but that's hardly surprising. Now, of course, some people helped him out and gave him an example of what Matsuri would look like if she was in fact a goblin, but again, nobody's buying his defense on that image. Now, of course, I have a personal connection to all of this. He actually slandered me on a recent stream, so to give context here, they're talking about a clip uploaded to Asmongold's clip channel where on stream, Vaush called him a Nazi, and then referring to the fact that Asmongold has reacted to some of my videos in the past, he referred to me as a pedophile. And as Asmongold's editor and McConnell will point out, there is an immense level of audacity for this guy to call anyone a predator seemingly over takes involving fictional content when Vaush has compilations of him defending child porn, actual child porn.
If there's a thread that goes up on
Asmongold has been promoting AI being used to replace translators of anime. To do this, he's been watching a bunch of Rev Says Desu videos where a woman who had to Rev Says Desu, oh, the YouTube pedo lord.
Oh, wait for it.
Where a woman who had to translate for Dragon Maid. This is what Asmongold's arc for the past 2 months has been, I think. Dude, I heard that Asmongold was like a depressed NEET who had like piss jars piling up in his streaming room. I didn't realize it had gotten so bad he was watching Rev Says Desu videos. Holy shit. Why do they have to make it so easy? Why can't it just be he has a bad opinion? Why it can never just be like this guy has a bad opinion. It's like, no, he's like the most revolting human on the planet. Is he mentally unwell? Yes, definitionally, he has to be.
We're getting McConnell out for this one, boys. Coming from the guy that said he hasn't heard a moral or legal reason why having CP should be illegal?
In fact, and this is going to be a real hot take, I have yet to hear a convincing moral or legal argument as to why possession of child pornography should be illegal. Actual child pornography.
Okay, so if you were to... So, you know, there's pedophiles, right, who buy child pornography. Would you say they should not be held responsible for doing that?
Yes.
Really? Even though they're directly supporting child rape?
Yeah, I think it's hypocritical. If I bought my computer and the silicon in it was farmed in Africa by slaves, if I can do that and that's legal and no one's going to call me out on my shit, then yeah, I have to be consistent in that respect.
Okay, look, I think there's levels to this. So I wouldn't equate buying a computer to buying child pornography.
Should consuming child porn be legal? I think that would be, yes, more legal and more ethically consistent. Yes, 100%.
Now, people like myself have been raising concerns about those comments he's made regarding CP for years, and they've gone largely unheard, but recently a lot of attention's been on Vaush because of the lolly element of this recent folder leak, because Twitter hyperfixates on this topic and has largely ignored his past comments about CP and other very bizarre interests that he has that we'll get into later in this video. But on the topic of lolly, I will remind my viewers or any newcomers of my very open and consistent stance on this topic. Number one, at a ground level, I believe there is a ton of misinformation on this subject. People don't even know what the term lolly means. They have a false definition that Twitter has been pushing for a long time. Twitter will make you believe that lolly means underage, which is not the case. Lolly simply means something is cute, petite, short, and other features like that, and that involves characters from anime and manga, okay? And people, for some reason on Twitter, believe it means underage when it doesn't. There are characters that are adults who are lolly characters, like Rebecca from Cyberpunk. She fits the proper definition of lolly to a T, and people who are knowledgeable understand and agree that she is a lolly. And if you don't agree with that, if you have some sort of a disagreement, you're simply wrong. Even the creators of the anime refer to her as a lolly. There is no debate on this subject. But going back to lolly, a lot of people have moral objections about this topic. And guess what? That's very valid. You are allowed to find these topics disgusting, gross, immoral, degenerate, what have you. But you're wrong when you start watering down the term pedophilia to something that it's not. When you water down the term pedophilia to something like fictional content, you are hurting real victims by watering down the term and making people less likely to take it seriously. We see this happen all the time. How many threads have you seen on Twitter where someone's being exposed as an actual abuser of children, and some people are confused as to whether we're talking about fictional content or real children? That is a big problem. And honestly, if you want to make the follow-up argument saying, oh, well, it's a gateway drug to real-life abuse, then prove it. Because there's hundreds of millions of people around the world who consume things like anime that have lolicon in it, and you would think if that was the case, if there was a connection between that type of content and real-life abuse, there would be proof of it, right? There would be studies. Well, there's none. And I invite you to find some, but you'll come up empty-handed. A lot of this comes from people's moral objections to the subject, and you can see kind of the level people are at based on how they're reacting to the situation. So a lot of people on Twitter, including some large content creators, are referring to what's in Vaush's folder as literal CSEM. Meanwhile, they are reposting it uncensored onto Twitter. Why would they repost something that they think is literal CSEM? That would make them not only guilty of possession of CP, but also redistribution as well. But anyways, moving on to the next part of this video, whether it's Asmongold, me, or other content creators, Vaush has the typical mentality of calling everyone he dislikes a pedo or a Nazi. And it turns out I'm not the first VTuber he has attempted to do this to. He's talked about Pippa in this way in the past, and notice her response, and she raises another thing that people are currently talking about.
Just a libertarian, rubbing my hands, thank you for the shekels. Puts on a child voice, audience spams over. Guys, every time this happens the exact same way, like it goes the exact same way every single time. Her community and her are full of Nazis. She doesn't care about the Nazi shit that much, probably. She just wants to make money off the fact that most Nazis are pedophiles. If you wanted to attract, like, think about it, guaranteed income source. Put on the voice of a child, have like a childlike VTuber avatar, appeal to Nazis. Perfect. Like market 101 shit, you know? Right there. Perfect alignment.
Did you hear about what Vaush said about you? Yeah, I think he said I'm a Nazi. That's interesting. He thinks everyone's a Nazi. That is true. I'm not really concerned if a horse fucker thinks I'm a Nazi though. I don't really, I don't take life advice from people who are fixated on horsecock. Sorry.
So yes, Vaush has, let's just say, an affinity for horses, and there are endless examples of him talking sexually about horses, to the point where he has just openly admitted and accepted that he's into this stuff, and has absolutely no shame in it whatsoever. In fact, he's kind of been put into a corner because there are dozens upon dozens of examples of him talking sexually about horses. And also notice that almost every comment, there's no reference to it being fictional, by the way. So it probably comes as absolutely no surprise that 2 of the images from that folder that got leaked contain AI-generated horses banging anime girls. Yeah, not surprising at all. What Vaush fails to realize, and a lot of people like him fail to realize, is that the logic he's using to call people pedophiles over something like anime is the same logic that would make him a zoophile for his comments and the images he saved that feature horses. Like, it's absolutely insane that this guy can't see the parallels there, but will continue to double down because he wants to demonize anime fans that desperately. But as it turns out, don't worry, he has an excuse for everything. He thinks he's being attacked by many content creators, including H3H3, because of ulterior motives, that they're trying to do something to take advantage of the situation to smear him. And he blames several things, including the situation in Israel, as well as the fact that he has trans people in his community. Now, we'll listen to those 2 clips, but then we're going to compare his past comments about the trans community from only a few years ago.
This had better not be some weird spite thing because I'm like anti-Israel or so. I don't know. Like, that's weird. Like, where is that coming from? Part where he said this is a pedophile community. Yeah, did he say that with regards to there being a lot of transgenders here? Is that what he meant? Curious. Yeah, it's not great. Oh fuck, did he really? Yeah, he did. Or at least it was gestured at, I think. But yeah. I noticed there's a vastly disproportionate amount of dumb fuck lefty takes in my feed coming from trans people. Like, I don't know. Most of the time when a wildly fucking irrational lefty comes in to make bad faith arguments against me, it's a trans person. That is a fact. If all of these dumb fucks recognize that I despise them and think they're every bit as detrimental to the left as Nazis are, I am doing good. I want these people to know that they're my enemy. I fucking hate them. I really do. But they're not your enemy. Oh, no. Yes, they are. They hurt me and they hurt you. Because every time some dumb fuck trans girl on Twitter who's acting out mental illness, whining, calling people like me transphobic because I disagree with them, they're hurting the left. No, these people are ill. These people are cancer. They're subhuman. I don't care.
I think it's very obvious in this situation that Vaush is an absolute massive hypocrite on this subject, and instead of just taking the L, he has only dug a deeper and deeper hole for himself. But honestly, it probably won't matter too much because his viewers have put up with this for years. They've heard the comments he's made about CP. They've heard all of the comments he's made about horses and things like that, and his hypocritical stances on fictional content. They don't care. They just keep consuming his content. They ignore all the obvious red flags and signals that he is a hypocrite, and they just keep listening to what he has to say. So it's probably not going to change much. He's probably not going to lose much on this, and he's just going to continue doing what he does, and people are going to gobble it up, and that's just the way it is over there. That's how it's been for years. But that's going to do it for today's video. I know there was a lot, so feel free to share all of your thoughts in the comments section down below. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.